My name is Bo Hoopman.
My name is Vicki Opitz.
I rowed here in 99 to 2004 or 2003 when I volunteer coached for, basically every year since I graduated. Then I was full-time to 2011-2012 season. I've been here for 12 years, a while. I know the program pretty well.
I have been a coach here for the start of my 4th year. I was 2 years with the Wisconsin lightweight women's rowing team, and this is coming into my 2nd year as head coach of the women's rowing team.
Brought forth in 2020, a handful of past NCAA student athletes filed a lawsuit against the NCAA for not receiving the payment withheld from NIL deals. As time passed, athletes continued to come forward and join the lawsuit. Earlier this year, a U.S. District Court judge reached a $2.78 billion settlement for the lawsuit, paid over a period of 10 years. The NCAA now faces the challenge of coming up with the money. The solution was to take money from current NCAA athletic programs. This leaves schools with the decision of how to allocate their remaining budget toward their athletic programs. Some schools have pitched the idea of giving money to the programs that create the most revenue, ensuring they will continue to make money. However, this puts countless non-revenue generating Olympic sport athletic programs, such as rowing, at risk. I sat down with both the men's and women's head coaches, as well as women's rower Sophia Grunling, to hear their thoughts.
So this summer was when we were first made aware of these lawsuits going on, and from my understanding, it's this big settlement of ex-Division I NCAA athletes who are suing for what I think would be the money they would have made had they been allowed to use NIL in college athletics.
So roster limits is kind of the first one. Our numbers this year being about 140 total women, and our cap for next season will be 68, and then just kind of how the NIL, like the revenue sharing component of it, which I think that our athletic department is still figuring out a lot of those kind of little bits and pieces, so I can't speak to that as of right now, but the roster limits is a for certain thing.
It's a double-edged sword. There's, the number of athletes is being cut across every sport. Like, we've had teams of 90 guys before, and now it's going to be 40. We've never been able to give men's athletes that are rowers scholarships before. There's opportunities to fund financial aid packages for student athletes coming in to row now. There's a possibility of that.
I think there's a lot of unknown, right? Like the comforting thing is this is a mandated change across the country. So it's not like it's just affecting Wisconsin athletes and, Wisconsin sports programs. It's affecting everybody.
I think about the 08 boat when we won a national championship. Those guys, the Stern pair, wouldn't have made it because they were too weak in the beginning. They went on to the Olympics. Like, they wouldn't have had an opportunity.
I walked on my freshman year. If this was the case when I was a freshman, I may not have been on the squad.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the real question, is like, are they just going to get rid of Title IX, which would adversely affect every women's sport here? I don't know what the plan is with revenue sharing, if they're going to split it 50-50, probably not. Like, that's a Title IX lawsuit, if it's not.
That is a question that I think a lot of, myself and other, women's sports coaches definitely have concerns about, because I think that is a huge reason why our programs, kind of came to fruition, but also, why they, receive funding and support and also, just notoriety. I'm choosing to see it as, I think a positive. I think there can be a lot of really good benefits that come out of this.
One message for them would be to consider the implications for every kid who ever wants to play a sport in the United States. Growing up, you look at these athletes who were given these opportunities because of scholarships, because of, equal opportunity, because of this kind of funding that allows them to compete at a high level. And
there is definitely a concern for Olympic non-revenue sports that, because they aren't, bringing in the big bucks, that, we don't want them to go away.
Well, since student athletes are going to get paid now for their name, image, likeness, a lot more money is going to flow into revenue sports, which puts Olympic sports like rowing, I don't want to say at risk, because there'll always be support from somebody.
Maybe someday down the line, there's a dad bringing his daughter to the shoreline, and he's like, hey, you could do that someday. Piggybacking off the men of 150 years, we just celebrated 50 years as a women's sport. There's not a ton of other women's rowing teams in the country that have celebrated 50.
As a program, we've been through 2 world wars, a depression. We've made it through the other side every time. So this is a little speed bump, the program will survive as long as the university allows it.
In terms of like a worldly scale, Wisconsin brings in a lot of accolades from our Olympic athletes and our Olympic sports, like the swim team, our track cross country, our rowing team send a lot of people.
The great thing about this is you can find a kid that's going to be an Olympian, like just in a line at SOAR.
So I think it's a very narrow view that maybe short term is, of course, like let's bring in the money, let's do that. But I think you're sacrificing the experience of college athletics that grows those individuals, not only in revenue sports, but Olympic sports, non-revenue sports.
The only thing I can see is if like so much effort is put into making sure that the revenue sports are successful, and that's a crapshoot because in that perspective we're way behind our competition. But like cutting other successful sports to just to make sure that those sports are taken care of. Like we have a really successful track team, they don't have a facility. By trying to expand opportunity for some, we're limiting opportunity for others. You just hope we don't become a casualty of the revenue. That's all.
It's easy to think about the power of the dollar. Certainly, like that is important. I'm not going to say that it's not, but I think understanding that like human experience is sort of like you can't put a value on that. There's such a comparison between communication, workplace dynamics, overcoming adversity that's so transferable from sport to professional life.
Yeah, it changes day by day, but like none of this stuff, like it's not anybody's right to be on an athletic team. It's a privilege. I don't think it's going to affect morale. We're still going to run the team the same way. Like it's just rowing, like any sport. The sport doesn't really change. Like the athlete has to change to the sport. Like all the stuff that's being taken away, it's not the end of the world if it's taken away. Just you feel slighted because it was promised to you.
Sometimes it's hard when you think about we are still getting a lot of these opportunities, but there's still a lot of money going elsewhere that is still getting not used by other programs that could need it in other areas.
This all seems like doom and gloom, but it's like you just got to find a way to be successful. Like we've had welcome to our world. You just had to find a way to be relevant. But it's not the end of the world. It's just sports.
Everybody has things they have to deal with. Every program again in the country is having to deal with this, but we're going to do it and handle it better.